Hello everyone, today's lesson is about percent of change and it is one of the applications of percentage rate and base. So we will have our story problem. But first, did you know that Venezuela is rich in oil reserves and fossil fuels? They use that to provide their people with free gasoline. The price per gallon at the Venezuelan pumps is only $0.01. Now for our story problem titled Increased in Price, we have the price of oil increased from 48 pesos to 54 pesos per liter. What is the percent of increase in oil prices? In this problem, we are asked to find for the percent of increase. So that means we're looking for a rate. Before we answer this problem, it's important for us to know first what percent of increase is. So percent of increase is the extent to which a variable gains value. It is the result of dividing the amount of increase and the original value. So if we will use our triangular figure, which looks like this one, since percent is a rate, we'll have P divided by B. In this case, our percentage is the amount of increase and our base is the original value. But how do we find for the amount of increase? The amount of increase again is a percentage. Okay. But instead of multiplying the base and the rate to compute for the amount of increase, we will just simply use subtraction, wherein we will subtract the new price from the original price. To understand more about this one, let's go back to our story problem. So again, it's given that the original price of the oil is 48 pesos. Then it increased to 54 pesos. Okay, so for us to find for the percent of increase, our equation will be 54 pesos minus 48 pesos. Again, this is the new price and this is the original price. Then we will divide it by the original price, just like what you saw earlier in our formula. So let's solve. Okay, let's find first the amount of increase by subtracting the new price and the original price. So we'll have here 54 minus 48. Okay, so we have 14 minus 8 is 6. Then 5 will become 4. So we have 54 minus 48 is just 6. Then we'll still divide it by the original value, which is 48. So let's have 6 divided by 48. We cannot divide 6 by 48, so we'll add a decimal point and 0. 60 divided by 48 is 1. 1 times 48 is 48. Then we'll have here a remainder 12. Then, since there's a remainder, we have to continue dividing by adding a 0 there and bring it down. 120 divided by 48, that would be 3. Let's try, that would be 2. Let's try 2. 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1, that's 9. So we'll have again here a remainder. Okay, so let's add one more 0 and bring it down. 240 divided by 48, that would be 5. 5 times 8 is 40 and 5 times 4 is 20 plus 4, that's 24. Since there is no more remainder, we can stop dividing here. So our answer now will be 0.125. But remember, we're looking for a rate. So that means we have to change this decimal number into a percent by simply moving the decimal point of the quotient 2 times to the right. So if we move it 2 times to the right, that's 1 and 2. So the decimal point now will be between 2 and 5. So for our answer, we'll have 12.5%. Therefore, the increase in oil price is 12.5%. Now, let's talk about percent of decrease. So, percent of decrease is the opposite of percent of increase. This time, it is the extent to which a variable loses value. And for us to find for the percent of decrease, we just simply have to divide the amount of decrease and the original value. Okay, so for our formula, since again we're talking about rate, we'll just use percentage divided by base. But this time, our percentage should be the amount of decrease since we are talking about percent of decrease. But still, the base will be the original value. For us to find for the percent of decrease, we will subtract the original value by the new value. So let's have an example. Amy used to weigh 150 pounds. After enrolling herself in a fitness program, she now weighs 120 pounds. The question is, by how many percent did her weight decrease? So our equation will be 150, which is the original value, minus 120, which is the new value, divided by 150, which is again the original value. Okay. So let's solve. We'll have 150 minus 120, that will give us 30, and we'll divide it by 150 to get the percent of decrease. So let's divide. We have 30 divided by 150. We cannot divide 30 by 150, so we'll add decimal point and 0. 300 divided by 150 will give us 2, and 2 times 150 is 300. Let us not forget to copy this decimal in our quotient. So we have 0.2. We're looking for rate, therefore we have to change this decimal into a percent by moving the decimal point 2 times to the right. Since we have here a space, we need to add a placeholder 0 to fill it out. Therefore, our answer will be 20%. So her weight decreased by 20%. Now let's have some more examples. Julie scored 15 on her first summative test. She then scored 21 on the second. By how many percent did her score increase? Okay. Since her original score is 15 and it increased to 21, therefore we will be looking for the percent of increase in her score. And for us to do that, we'll have 21 minus 15, which is the new value minus the original value divided by the original value. And again, this is our formula in finding the percent of increase. So let's solve. We have 21 minus 15, that is 6. Then we'll divide it by 15. 6 divided by 15. We add decimal point and 0. 60 divided by 15 will give us 4. So we have 4 times 5, that's 20. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1, that's 6. Then we copy the decimal point above in our quotient. And we move it 2 times to the right to change this decimal into percent. Since there's a space here, we'll add a decimal, a placeholder 0. So for our answer, that will be 40%. Okay. So her score, or Julie's score, increased by 40%. Now let's have another problem. Joy's allowance increased from 200 pesos to 250 pesos a day. How much is the percent of increase? Again, we will look for the percent of increase because there is an increase in her allowance. So for our equation, we'll have original or new value rather minus the original value divided by the original value. Okay, so let's start. 250 minus 200, that will give us 50. Then we'll divide it by 200. Okay, let's solve. We cannot divide 50 by 200, so we add decimal point and 0. 500 divided by 200 is 2. Then we'll have 400. When we subtract, that will give us 100. Since there is a remainder, we still need to continue dividing by adding a 0 there and bring it down. 1000 divided by 200 is 5. 5 times 200 is 1000. Since there is no more remainder, we can stop dividing here. But let's not forget to copy this decimal point above. Okay, then to change this decimal into percent, we just simply have to move the decimal point 2 times to the right. So for our answer, we'll have 25%. So her allowance increased by 25%. Next, we have a school had 2,100 enrollees last school year. This school year, their number of enrollees increased by 126. What was the percent of increase? Okay, so for this problem, we are asked to find for the percent of increase. And we are already given the amount of increase because it is stated in the problem that the number of enrollees increased by 126. Okay, so this is already the amount of increase. It is not the new number of enrollees, rather it is the number of enrollees added to the original number of enrollees. So for our equation, we will have 126 again. This is the amount of increase divided by the original value, which is 2,100. Okay, so let's have 126 divided by 2,100. Okay, so let's add a decimal point and 0. We now have 1,260 divided by 2,100 is 0. So we have to add another 0 here. 12,600 divided by 2,100, that will give us, let's try 6. Okay, so 6 times 0 is 0, 6 times 0 is 0, 6 times 1, 6, and 6 times 2 is 12. There's no remainder, so we'll stop dividing here. But we need to move the decimal point 2 times to the right to get the percent, and this will be equal to 6%. Therefore, the number of enrollees in the school increased by 6%. Now let's have problem number 6. In a school, the number of students who come late decreased from an average of 170 students to 119 students per term. How much is the percent of decrease? So for our solution, or for our equation, we'll have 170, which is the original number of students who come late, minus the new number of students who come late, which is 119, divided by the original number of students who come late. So we have 170 minus 119, that will give us 51. Okay, so we have to divide 51 by 170. We'll have here, let's try 3. Okay, we have 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 7 is 21, 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2, that will be 5 rather. There's no remainder, so we'll stop dividing here. And we need to move the decimal point 2 times to the right. So for our answer, we'll have 30%. Okay, so the number of students who come late to school decreased by 30%. Last example, a t-shirt is on sale for 250 pesos. If its original price is 500 pesos, what is the percent of change in the price of the t-shirt? So when we are asked to find for the percent of change, it is just the general term for percent of increase and percent of decrease. But since it is stated in the problem that the t-shirt is on sale and its original price is 500 pesos, but now it is only 250 pesos, this percent of change we are talking about is a percent of decrease because there is a decrease in the price of the t-shirt. So for our equation, we will have the original value of the shirt minus the new value of the t-shirt divided by the original value. Again, this is our formula for finding the percent of decrease. So let's solve. 500 minus 250 is 250. So we will divide 250 by 500. Okay, and that would be equal to 2,500 divided by 500 is 5. 5 times 500 will give us 2,500. Since there is no remainder, we'll stop dividing here and we will copy the decimal point above. Okay, then we move it 2 times to the right to make it a percent. Okay, there is a space here, so we add a placeholder 0. So for our answer, we'll have 50%. Therefore, the percent of change in the price of the t-shirt is 50%. And that's it for our lesson for today. Awesome job, everyone. Thank you for listening.